Welcome to Factorio Friday Facts. My name is Nilaus, and we are back with another review of some of the cool changes that have been recently announced about the new planet Gleba and the functionality that is inherent to that planet. So it's going to be all about biological stuff, all about the fungus, and all about the spoilage. So exciting stuff. So stay tuned, like and subscribe if you want to, and also leave the comment below because I'd like to hear your thoughts about these changes, whether that's great or bad or what you're excited about. Let's talk a bit about the very first thing we look at is the look and feel, because that's what we have up here. And I'm really excited about all these changes, but I'm not so excited about the look of it. And I've been having a difficult time articulating why I'm not so excited about it. And when looking at it, it's probably the easiest. I feel that the noise to signal ratio is too much slanted towards noise. What I mean by that is there's too much going on. There are too many little doodads that are things, and we don't know what it is, but they're not. All of this, what we're looking at, is just background. It does nothing. Well, maybe some of it, maybe some of it is tree, maybe some of it is not. I don't know, but most of it is just blank background. And on a desert planet or some other planet that we can recognize, then it's pretty cool. But here it's all fungus based, and I don't have relation to it. It's just sparkling weird colors and things sticking out, and it's more noisy to me to look at this, and it seems like that's the new style for Factorio. Can't say I'm super into it. Everything looks good, but it's confusing. That's it. It's confusing. It is not as clear cut as in Satisfactory, for example, where you can clearly see the distinction and also the simplicity of a new biome. This one is a clear transition here into these orange things, but I still think there's a lot of things going on. But that's just me, and I'd really like to hear what you think about it, considering all of this is just going to be under concrete eventually, at least in my world. So, but I think it's very interesting that they, of course, want a biological planet, but they then go not for the tropes of jungle or forest, but actually go for fungus and lichen and stuff like that. And I love that. It's trying to avoid the most obvious tropes and give us something new and unique. So that's the look and feel of it. Interesting, exciting. A little bit too noisy for me. Like, oh, there we go. There's actually an ore patch, a stone patch here that is completely disappearing. Anyway, we'll see that, and then let's dive into the functionality, because that's what really matters when we're playing the game. So on a biological planet, it is, I don't know, obvious, but we're going to be doing some planting and we're going to be doing some harvesting. And that's what this beautiful machine is now is going to do. This is a new machine that is planting and harvesting automatically, which is kind of needed, because if you're going to harvest and plant stuff, then you need a machine to do it. A lot of mods are already doing this, and they kind of encapsulate it in a greenhouse, for example, or some growth chamber or something like that, where you put some resources in and then you get some other resources out and some seeds that then go back and build more. That's all been done before with mods. The only difference here is that it's now a big building that actually does stuff, and it's pretty cool, but functionality wise, it's not really something unique here. None of this can't be done with mods functionally. Of course, this cool grabbing arm is pretty unique. And what we can see about it is that it harvests fruits, and it seems to be harvesting pretty fast or pretty significant amounts of fruits. And then it needs seeds to plant a new tree, and then we don't know how long it takes or how much it's going to do, but I would imagine that we can build like big farms of this. It also says that there has to be a certain distance from other locations, so there will definitely be some kind of optimal pattern of how to build these, and we'll find that out, and probably have long lines of farms going in and feeding a factory with all this fruit. So what do we do with the fruit? Well, the fruit goes into an assembler, and then it becomes the seeds that we can then recycle into making more trees, and it also can be used for other things, as I understand these things that were sort of like building the soil itself that they need to build it on, and also then it comes out as mash. So that is the product that moves forward, the mash. So, well, here is a bigger setup of this grabbing thing. You can see that there are many of these trees with those red bulbs. There are two trees, two types of plants, and these are well, one of them, and the other one is not mentioned or not named at this point. But hey, the idea is probably the same. What can we then do with this mesh? Well, here we have a new building unique to Gleba. On the other planets, there are also unique buildings, the electromagnetic facility and also the foundry. And here it is the biochamber. The biochamber is taking these biological processes and then making other stuff, more refined stuff. I think the white stuff here is the nutrients. The orange stuff you see on the belt is the mesh we got from there. And then my guess is the green stuff is the stuff that comes from the other plant. That's my guess. But that could also be something that they mentioned some bioflux, that a mysterious matter that called bioflux, which is probably used for science, but we'll see that later on. But what you can see here is that the first two processes are making these nutrients, the white matter, and then that is also being used for the other process, the one on the right, which is making plastic. So you can actually use these biochambers to take the biological matter and make it into other stuff. I would guess that it's well, they are mentioning that it's replacing the oil refining. So it's probably the other tree will probably, I'm saying probably, but I would guess it would be more sulfur based, so that you can also get the sulfur sulfuric acid going from this, and then maybe you can do the plastic, the sulfur sulfuric acid, maybe some rocket fuel, that kind of thing, also being extracted from these plants. So really interesting, really exciting about this process. These buildings seem to be 3x3, so they're the same size as an assembler. So maybe they can have 4 modules as an assembler. I would guess they can also have productivity modules, but because they seem to be a bit like an assembler. It also says that they're not used for any of the regular formulas, like the foundry is also replacing and superseding the normal smelter, and the electromagnetic is also superseding the normal assembler. So here, this doesn't do that, but it sort of replaces the process of oil harvesting. Really interesting, and definitely something that's going to be exciting to build. But if this was just it, then none of this isn't what we can do with mods. So more to come, and this is where things get really exciting. I can't believe we're so excited, or I'm so excited about spoilage. What does that mean? Well, look at this little white bar below each of the products on the belt that's flowing here. That is the lifetime, and when they sort of reach the end of the lifetime, they become spoilage. They become just junk, and I think that's super exciting. Why? Well, because it forces us to do different things than what we usually do in Factorio. Usually in Factorio, you build a process and you just throw it into a box and then go like, well, now that I have a box of 10,000 of this product, and that's fine, and I'll be happy with it. And when a train comes in, then I can just pick up the 10,000 and move it somewhere else. That's going to be a little bit more difficult to do, because you're going to be ending up with a lot of stuff in inventory that just sits there and expires, and then it becomes spoilage. And that's not great. So we want to make sure that, that things are flowing and don't sort of sit and become old in a box. And that means the whole process actually becomes, from the beginning to the end, now becomes sort of a time part where you have to do it. Because even though you're actually here, even though you take some stuff and you make a new product, that new product does not become fresh. And the subtext here for the picture says you can't make a fresh salad from moldy lettuce either. That makes sense. And this is what we see. So if you take some 50% input resource, then the output will also be 50% spoiled. And that means the whole process just goes closer and closer to spoilage. And if you then make it all the way to the end, and then the last product before you use it, then that gets spoiled, then you've sort of wasted the entire process. That means the whole process is going to be tied together in a rhythm. It's going to be different from usual, where you have these big buffers, into more of a Toyota car factory where everything moves at the same cadence and there is a flow, and if the one flow stops, then the whole line flows. But it's not like just building up an inventory somewhere in line. And I think that's super exciting, because it's something that means that we have to use the same principles for designing our factory. It's the same inserters and belts and all that stuff, but now there's an extra part of, don't buffer things. Make sure that everything is built to ratios, so that things don't sort of get stuck somewhere. But all the way from you pick the fruit, to you mash it, to you refine it, to you whatever, all the way to the end, you will need to make sure that it flows continuously, so you have as much freshness left on your final product, so you can actually get to use it and build it into something that does not expire. For example, something like plastic or other products that don't expire, because you can also make it into non-expiring products. Well, what are you going to do when stuff spoils? Well, they sort of mentioned that they had this choice of either they just disappear or they actually become spoiled product. And I think that it's good that they make it into a spoiled product, because it gives a little bit of extra design challenge. That means we have to make sure that whatever product we have on Gleba will have to have sort of an overflow or a filter out of things that spoil, and that spoiled stuff has to go into a place. And I can even imagine that you get to a point where, this is just me just hypothesizing, somehow you get to a point where things have spoiled, your factory has slowed down a little bit and things spoil, and you redirect things to the spoilage handling, and then the spoilage handling can't keep up, and so it backlogs, and then your original process is stuck because you can't handle the spoils, and therefore more things spoil, and therefore you overflow your spoilage handling, and you know, all the fun stuff that you just come to expect with factory games. So super exciting and super interesting. What can you do with it? Well, there are three examples here. You can put it into a boiler and burn it and get steam out of it. I don't think that's going to be something we're going to do a lot, but you never know, because you probably don't have a reliable amount of spoiled. I would also imagine what spoiled doesn't get any more spoiled, so you just keep it there. So that's a fixed product. You can use it for that. Or in the recycler, you can just basically, it looks like you take maybe 5 in and get 1 out. So it basically just disappears, some of them. Or you can upscale it by making it into nutrients, but the nutrients will only have 50% spoilage remaining, freshness level remaining. So I think that's the best option if you have something to use the nutrients for, and then get them back into the process. So really exciting how to both get rid of it and what the idea of it. And I think this is the essence of what VOOP does so well with Factorio. They have like a small feature, and then that small feature just kind of cascades into different ways of thinking. Like, for example, when they introduced train limits, it was just a little, oh, here's a little checkbox. And then it completely changed the way that we approach trains before and after the train limits. Absolutely amazing. And they think the spoilage is like, oh yeah, by the way, buffers suck. Perfect. Also looking forward to seeing a mod where everything spoils. So that's going to be exciting. So it gets worse, because the new science pack, which of course is going to be here and maybe going to be using this mysterious bioflux, is also going to spoil. And I think that's interesting, which means that not only on Gleba are you going to have a process all the way from picking all the way to your science product. And it's not like when you get the science product, you're like, that was good, now it's all done. But no, because that still sits there and becomes more and more spoiled. I don't know if it spoils slower or whatever, but it's maybe just down to 30%, and then you have to load it onto a spaceship, send the spaceship or space platform home, and then unload it, get it into the science facility, and then consume it, all before it just turns to worthless spoiled, and that's going to be a challenge. This also means that if you have different researchers, and some of them might be requiring this biological science and some might not use biological science, then you use the biological science, and then you finish that research, you go over to something that's not requesting biological science. Now all the biological science that you're constantly producing, because there's a constant flow, is just sitting there and turning into spoilage. So that's going to be exciting and interesting as well. Like, how do you mitigate this? There will be some circuit conditions, I think, like, okay, if this something, then redirect and just turn it into plastic instead of refining into to science facilities, science products that are going to be wasted anyway. So definitely a lot of interesting design challenges that are coming up from something as simple as, oh, by the way, your products expire and become worthless. So really excited about this change. And everything about it just seems so cool and so eager to dive in. The one thing that they mentioned here on the design journey was that they were considering having 10 plants that each sort of made into one of the oil products or some product. And I'm so happy they didn't do that, because if they had 10 different ones, that would mean that we'd have like 10 lines of identical factories just for each of the output. And then one of them has to be more, and then we need to build 3 of the plastic, but only 1 of the sulfur. And I just don't think that's a good idea. So I'd much rather have few input resource like iron and copper, and then having that sort of be refined and combined in different ways and balanced out to be some plastic, some sulfur, some science, something else. We don't really know what is. Much more interesting design challenge. So especially when things expire. So I'm really happy about this change. I'm excited about it and look forward to it. So I want to hear what you think about this change. Is it good? Is it great? Is it awesome? What are the things that you're looking most forward to it? And also, like, what do you think about the look and feel of the planet here? Does it look good to you, or does it look a little bit bland or confusing or whatever? Like, I'm really curious about what you guys think of this design here. I said my piece. So there, and I will be. I mentioned. Don't know if I mentioned, but I started the space exploration mod, the playthrough, and I have retired that because I didn't enjoy it, not one bit. And I'm taking a hiatus from Factorio until I get my hands on space exploration, Space Age, sometime when it releases. So that's that means no, you don't expect any more Factorio content. I mean, maybe something will happen, but that's not the plan. But there will be tons of other content on our channel, lots of factory content whenever that's available, but other content as well, both here and on Twitch. So come check that out as well. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take care and stay effective.